Kansas Sports Chatter gets back at it as we bring in our next guest, and that's going to be Matt Dumler and also Shawn Behr. Dumler serves as the color commentator for the radio broadcast in Hayes for 96.9 KFIX and HayesPost.com. Shawn Behr serves as the color commentator for the Great Bend radio broadcast on B104.3 The Points and GreatBendPost.com. All right, we bring you in case anyone's been under a rock over the last couple of months. There's a pretty big game happening in Ellis County this upcoming Friday night as Great Bend will go to Hayes for football. And we'll start with Matt. I mean, does this feel like a Week 7 matchup that it's just taken forever to get to?
If I'm going to be honest, this feels like it should be about a Week 12 or 13 matchup that we've been excited about. Great Bend's always been on kind of the highlight of the schedule all season as Hayes has navigated a very difficult schedule. We've been kind of watching the offense kind of plan out for that and the defense. But it is definitely one that they have marked down, especially I think coming off of last year where they split that season series. Great Bend took the regular season, and then Hayes was fortunate enough to get it in the playoffs. But it is a big rivalry game, and it's going to be an amazing atmosphere with the new stadium opening up and Great Bend being there for the first time. And then you throw in the quality of the teams that are coming. But, yeah, this is definitely a game that we've been looking forward to.
Shawn, same question to you. Are you finally ready for this matchup?
I think so. You look at the schedule and you look ahead, and you don't like to look ahead, but you see Hayes, and thank goodness they got it right, because usually we've been playing Week 2, and it was just way too early in the season to be having to beat up on each other. But Matt kind of alluded to it. It feels like a Week 12 matchup, and quite honestly, maybe we see it all in Week 12 again.
Right. Well, I mean, for you, we'll start with Shawn this time. I mean, we'll play the compliment game. What has impressed you the most about Hayes High so far this year, Shawn?
Just look at their strength of schedule. I mean, it's. I was kidding with Armbruster, and I said, what are you guys trying to do? Get the RPI built up, because you guys did not do a patty cake schedule at all. First 4 weeks, you're tapping on the door of the top 5, 6A teams, and you guys are going, head to head with them, nose to nose, winning games late, which, that's really hard to do it with a team early in the season, is to have that much consistency and be able to do the things that they did late. So, for me, that was like, hey, if there's a sign of somebody being legit, they're not playing, and they're not midway through the third quarter, the game's decided. They're having to take it down to the wire with some pretty good teams, and they're winning. So,
Matt, for you, what stood out in your early preparation on Great Bend?
Well, I think it starts with that offense and how quickly they can score and the number of points that they can put up. It doesn't matter how good of a defense you have if one person. I hear Tony Crow use the phrase "do your 1/11th." He uses that quite a bit in post game. And if one guy doesn't do their 1/11th on any given play, Great Bend's going to beat you deep, or men's going to take off. Somebody's going to take off, and they're going to score, and they can do it very quickly, and they can put teams away early on in the game if somebody's not careful. So I think that's going to be, for Hayes going into this game, they're going to have to watch that offense for Great Bend.
And then now with the teams that you guys know the best, Matt, for Hayes High, I mean, I think a lot of people are looking at that offensive line and, and obviously Lind and what he's been able to do. What's impressed you so far just watching Hayes High through the first 6 weeks?
Sure. I think it's the way that they don't give up. They've been down a couple of times in these games, but they continue to stick with Hayes High football. They just grind out the clock, put together long drives. They stick with that run even when it's not running, because they know at some point that offensive line, as you alluded to, is going to wear teams down. It's not uncommon to find games mid-third quarter where the defense is just worn out and the offensive line starts getting pushed and Holden starts breaking off bigger runs. The offensive line, though, did take a shot a couple of weeks ago against Junction City. We lost our right guard, Maximo Luno. But luckily there's been a couple guys step in and fill in for that. But the development of that offense for Hayes High, the run game, they started to find a connection with Jarek Purdy and Zane Dieger. They've hooked up for 5 touchdowns over the last couple of games, and it's not mistakes either. Zane's putting it in a tight window. Vieger's being able to throw the ball, and then Purdy's able to make some catches. So that's a nice compliment to that running game. My question, though, coming into this game is going to be, is Hayes fatigued too much to hang with Great Bend?
Shawn, for you, what stood out through the first 6 weeks for the Great Bend Panthers?
Well, I think it was great that we got our question answered because early on we knew we had skill positions. I mean, you got kids going to Notre Dame and you got kids going on recruiting trips, no different than what Hayes is doing. But, our big question was, okay, we got the skill positions. What about that offensive line? And, Kern and Dynas and Brown, they have all stepped up and really proved that, hey, it was no worry. It was no concern. We've been able to have a pretty good balance of running and passing, and we're very effective when we do that. Bring in that freshman, who not too many people knew about, Colby Sporer. He's a big kid, going to be big dividends down the line for Great Bend. But I think for the most part, that was what was going to be the key, is how good could we do it in the trenches. And for us, that's really held true all year. And now you got Holiday and Kelly being able to run the football, which opens things up for Omocht and Premer over the top. And if Minton feels a little pressure, he's good enough to break contain and get it down. So I think, quite honestly, that's for me has been just a solid relief, because so many times you see kids that are great individually and have a lot of potential, but the 1/11th philosophy, the other 5 out of the 11 aren't doing their job or can't make it work. So for us, it's good to see the offensive line has stepped up and allowed our tools to go to work.
You mentioned Colby and some of those other guys, Shawn. Anyone else on the Great Bend team that's kind of stepped up? Because, I mean, a lot of people know those big names like Premer, and you mentioned Minton and Omont and Kern. Like, anyone else that's kind of, not only say surprised you, but that's really stepped up that it maybe didn't get as much recognition?
Yeah, I'm going to, Connor Holiday, the kids in Great Bend give him kind of a little bit of flack because he's a podcaster or whatever they call it, whatever they do these days.
Maybe a TikToker?
Yeah, TikToker. That's okay. What it is. And he's on there and he's showing you his workout ethics and how much he does in the weight room. And I know that's a big Post-it note for him, but he really has stepped up. I mean, he's a guy that's strong, got a lot of talent and speed, and to get down in there in the trenches against some pretty good offensive linemen, that says a lot about him. On the defensive line as well as Josue Bustamante, he doesn't get a lot of airtime, but the kid takes the double teams and does a great job to free up the Kern boys. The Kern linebacking crew is definitely top notch. They play downhill. They come after you. They don't wait around and let you get an angle on them. They're attacking. And then Fancher on the defensive side, he's just a kind of a small, undersized kid that really has stepped up. But the one that's really funny is Cohen Raborti. His sophomore year, he's sitting there, he's drinking iced teas after school and eating chips, and his buddies are giving him flack for not actually coming out for football. And last week, I think he had 2 interceptions. The weekend before, I think he had a couple of interceptions. He's playing a great corner. And as far as a punter, I mean, he's the guy that gives it plenty of hang time. So, the names that they all know, they're out there, but there's a lot of kids that are stepping up and doing their 1/11.
Does he still drink iced teas after the game?
Probably. He might even, I think there's enough people that'll probably get him a nice vanilla Coke or something.
There you go. Matt, same question for you. Who stepped up for Hayes that maybe isn't getting as much recognition as they should?
Sure. I'll give you 2 names, both kind of trying to fill in the same position. Little back history. We lost our starting tight end, Parker McGuire, during the Derby game to a nasty knee injury that he's still waiting to get surgery on. And so in order to fill in that role, we've had Jesse Taggart and Alex Loving, 2 kids that were going to get a little bit of playing time. Alex is kind of switching over to the offensive side of the ball this year. But Parker was a tremendous route runner. He threw some blocks in the Derby game that really allowed that victory to happen. And just within a week, Jesse and Alex were asked to fill in that role, and they have done that admirably. They kind of tag team, because Hayes is known for bringing in extra offensive linemen and running 2 tight end sets to spring Holden free. And both of those gentlemen have come in and been able to do that. They actually both came up with some really good catches against Dodge. Alex, he's a 6'2" kid that had to use all of his frame and arm length to come down with the ball to pick up a crucial first down. And Jesse Taggart got one for him as well. So that's kind of on the offensive side of the ball. And then you hear a lot of our defensive guys called, but one that is Caleb Thompson. You've probably heard his name some. He's not necessarily the standout all-star athlete that, like the Chartiers and the Geists and those guys. But Caleb Thompson's really what makes the back end of that secondary go. And then Caleb Rowe would be another one that you don't hear a lot about, but that's because he's usually doing his job, and his man doesn't come down with that football very often.
Hey, guys, appreciate the time. Shawn, make sure, I know you're partial to Lewis Field Stadium, but make sure you don't show up there Friday night, all right?
Yeah, I'll head out east, but I am going to hit this taco shop in the queue on my way out of town.
There you go.
Good stops. Matt, appreciate it. Shawn, also appreciate it.
Matt, best of luck to you. I'd say let's put some hair on the deal, but Armbruster doesn't have any, so
no, he's already lost that bet.
Good luck, guys.
All right, see you, Shawn. See you, Cole.
That is Shawn Behr and also Matt Dumler. You can listen to Dumler's broadcast on 96.9 KFIX and HaysPost.com. Shawn Behr will be with Mike Kesher on B104.3 The Points and KickInPost.com.